Hi, I'm Brian and welcome to this video. And on today's video, we're going to be talking about this album. It is Hot Chocolate's debut album called, in Australia, Emma. That's right, it was called Cicero Park everywhere else in the world, and Emma in Australia. Now, I wonder why that is. Might not have had anything to do at all with the fact that Emma was a big hit in Australia. Anyway, 1974, and it came out on the RAK label, which I'd always associated with Susie Quattro and maybe Kim Wilde, but definitely Susie Quattro. Anyway, I found out, I did a little bit of research. I know, shocking. I did a little bit of research and found out that it was produced mainly, this album, by Mickie Most, and Mickie Most's record label was RAK, which stood for Rackjobbers. I'm putting this up and down a lot. Maybe it's very, very annoying at this point. Maybe I should have shown you the back cover and the label and got on with it. Anyway, so Rackjobbers. And the idea here was they were going to get out more records to more people, and they were going to place records in places like service stations, petrol stations, supermarkets. Can you just imagine that, being in the queue, going up to the checkout, and eventually getting there thinking, my God, have I got enough bread? Have I got my milk? Have I got my hot chocolate? Oh, dang! I forgot my hot chocolate. Quick, Johnny, go and get the hot chocolate. No need to, sir. We have hot chocolate right here. Oh my God, what a convenient place to put the hot chocolate. That must be a real rack jobber. That's the idea. Anyway, so this is an original Australian pressing, and I bought this just the other day, and I've got into it immediately. Now, of course, there are some issues. If you were a spy trying to get into the security of this album, you'd get in pretty easily. That's good there. And a little bit of a tear over this side. Look out there. There we go. But it was very cheap, and the vinyl, most importantly, is in really solid condition, and it plays absolutely beautiful. So now what I want you to think about when we get into this album, and I'm going to try and include some audio samples today. Should have said that right up at the front, but anyway, is that this band was sort of, it's synonymous with Errol Brown being the lead singer. But on this album, on the early albums, Tony Wilson was also a singer with Errol Brown, and they wrote the songs together, and Tony was the bass player, and Errol, of course, had that distinctive voice. And there's Harvey, who was the guitarist up the back. And then we have Larry on keyboards, Larry Ferguson, and Tony Connor, and Patrick Olive on percussion and drums. And there they are. So I want you to think about this as being an album which was spawned from Everyone's a Winner and Heaven's in the Backseat of My Cadillac. Instead of songs like It Started with a Kiss, You Sexy Thing, and So You Win Again. So it all comes down to this. Do we want our hot chocolate with a little bit of sugar in it, you sexy thing, or do we want it with a little bit of spice? Well, why don't we have a discussion about it?
Yeah, music is a lover. Music turns her on and on, on and on.
The album gets underway with the title track, Cicero Park, which is a really interesting homage, it seems, at the beginning to Ennio Morricone and his soundtracks to spaghetti westerns, because there's lots of orchestration and even flutes in here. Played a flute, my God. But then we hear Errol Brown's dulcet tones, and we know that we're back on hot chocolate time. I don't know really what I was expecting when I picked up this album, and so I did a quick little bit of a check on it in Wikipedia, and it was told me it was the debut album, but also that it was music with a conscience, and music that was not singles-based music at all, but there was that funk and grime, and there's certainly a sense of the OJs here, perhaps. And the lyrical content matched that as well. Sitting by my window, watching another one begin to grow. Concrete trees growing wild. I can count 24 or more. Where are the children going to play? Where are the streams all going to flow? And that reminds me a lot of Cat Stevens' great song, which opens Tea for the Tillerman. Where will the children play? Great song. Fantastic opening to the album. And then we move into Could Have Been Born in the Ghetto, theme from Lovehead. Okay, well, there's a really creepy, foreboding instrumentation to start, and reminding again of the OJs. And then we have the distant fuzz coming in from Harvey from miles away. and the orchestration swirls and swirls all around the place, and then Errol comes in, but he seems like he's so far distant. It's absolutely awesome. It's an epic, this song, but I would suggest it's more Maggot Brain than maybe Lovehead. But that's just an opinion. This is classic funk. It's sort of like Superfly meets Shaft, and it's a whole funky groove. It's really cool. It's an absolute epic. And the lyrics, life is uncertain, ain't got all I need, but I can walk the streets, feel unafraid of greed. Tell the pusher man to just pass me by, ain't got nothing to gain, always high. I could have been born in the ghetto, could have laid dead in the ghetto. Fantastic lyrics as well. Then something weird happens here. We move on to the next song, which is called A Love Like Yours. And this is very different. It doesn't sound like Hot Chocolate. It's sort of like an antidote to I Could Have Been Born in the Ghetto. And I think a touching point for this is it almost sounds a bit like The Band. I know, weird, right? Now, one of the big reasons for this is it's certainly not an absolute funky song here, because, of course, it sounds like The Band. But Tony Wilson is on lead vocals, which is disconcerting because I'm so used to hearing Errol, but it doesn't matter. Tony's vocals work absolutely superb. The love Larry's vibrato on the keys, and what Harvey is doing with the volume knob on his guitar is giving us these swirls, but also producing sitar-like effects. The instrumental chorus with the pa 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 is so cool as well. Let's have a listen. And then it's time for You're on a Natural High. And at this point I was thinking, how could this album get any better? Well, this is how it's getting better, because this song's giving me a natural high as well. It's so far removed from the 1970s and 80s singles band, and this is a super cool, funky addition to this album. Who would have thought it? And Tony's vocals, Tony's back on lead vocals, sounds absolutely fantastic. And the rhythm section and the orchestration gets me back to the drive and the propulsion of Isaac Hayes. Beautiful lyrics which can sort of be summed up in just one line. You're a natural high and I'm strung to the bone. He needs a fix of that natural high. Now, how could the album get any better still? Well, why not close off side one with Emma? And this is my favorite Hot Chocolate song, I think, by a mile. Killer riff, killer vocal, killer groove, killer lyrics. And the song is going somewhere. It builds tension as we go through it. And there's always that foreboding sense that something's not going to go right in this story. It comes down to the minor chords that he used in that deep and gloomy, ominous section, and the love that is pouring out of Errol's voice for Emmeline. And then we come up to the final verse, and there is that tragic reveal, and Errol's incendiary screeching in the vocals in the final chorus, and the lead guitar coming over the top of the orchestration and the glistening organ swells. It's just amazing. And what's amazing is I really care for these characters, and it's pretty amazing to be able to evoke that sort of emotion in under 4 minutes. Side 2 kicks off with Changing World, which begins with a familiar sort of downward chord progression on your guitar or on your piano. And it's very similar in a sense to Can't Find My Way Home by Blind Faith, that supergroup from the late 60s. The harmonized vocals of Tony and Errol work beautifully together and add a gospel quality to this. And on many levels, it seems like it's the simplest production on the album, but it allows the piano to shine, And there's some glorious flourishes on that piano, and also a solo from Harvey, which hits the spot too. But I suppose it might be the lyrics which make it stand out for me here. Through chocolate-coloured eyes I see a world that never cared for me, changing, changing. For eyes that once stared at me now begin to smile with me, making me feel at home in a world where I've always felt alone. I will be loved. Nice. And then we increased the optimism slightly with the song Disco Queen, which I'm sure must have been the second single from this album. And this is kind of what I'm talking about. This is sort of what I was used to. This is what I was expecting when I came into this album. Errol's back on vocals. I love this song so much. Always see this one on the Best of Hot Chocolate or Hot Chocolate Greatest Hits or Hottest Chocolate or Hottest, the Hot Chocolate remixes and all that sort of stuff. But what I primarily think of this song now is in terms of its groove and its funk, it reminds me a hell of a lot of Heaven's in the Backseat of My Cadillac, and may have been a sort of blueprint for that. It's interesting. It starts off with a riff which I'm thinking it's borrowed from maybe Junior Wells and Messing with the Kid, but still, have a listen.
Give her satisfaction. All she needs is a guitar playing high.
And later on in the song, there's this really great sort of distant fuzz guitar solo from Harvey, which becomes a little bit bizarre and twisted. And the lyrics, Disco Queen is high, 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 high. We're on the money here. What a great song that is. Making Music is the next song on the album. And this one's a bit of an interesting one because I don't know how many of you will know In the Eye of the Sun by the Doors, and that was the Doors when they produced Other Voices, the first album after Jim's death. But this really gives me a sense of making music, and it's like the boom, 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 boom. But then when we move on in the song, it really does have all the DNA if you mix Curtis Mayfield and Isaac Hayes together. It's a one chord vamp, basically, and it might have been interesting if they could have brought in a second chord, but when it's this good, when we're allowing the musicians to stretch their legs a little bit, it's okay. I'm really happy about that. And we have lyrics here also which are interesting. My baby and me, we're good together. Okay. Like birds and the bees, we leave the ground. I thought that's a really interesting idea. You know, like birds and bees, you leave the ground because you're in love and you're floating. My baby and me are birds of a feather. Like the cows in the field, we graze around. And old MacDonald had a farm, I suppose. Cool song, Making Music. We move on to funky rock and roll. And this is kind of interesting because I'm not sure initially where the rock and roll is. There sure is a lot of funk in here, but I think it really comes in when Errol starts singing. But basically, it's an idea of two people who like different things. Errol likes funk. His partner likes rock and roll. And the idea is they've got to fuse the two together. It's a touching point here. It's a sense of the Spencer Davis group with Gimme Some Lovin'. And the lyrics are cool to follow. And I love the end section where Errol introduces the band. He says, I'll take the rhythm of the bass drum. And then the bass drum starts kicking out. And then my baby take the rhythm of the bass. And Tony Wilson comes in with the bass. Get a little funky piano just liven up the place. And the piano comes in. Get a little whoa, 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 which is the wah guitar to Harvey. Wow, 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 to make the rhythm sweet. Can you feel the heat? Great section. Great way to end the song. Finally, we come up to Bump and Dilly Down. Got no idea what this means. I got the bump idea, but the Dilly Down, is it dilly dallying? I'm not quite sure. It's a really great funky groove, and I'm not sure that it's that imaginative and it goes anywhere, but it's got a good time feel. It gets your body moving, and it finishes the album really nice. Tony leads the vocal charge here, and we've got a big Tony bass as well. But you know what? I really love Larry Ferguson's synths here, how they intersperse and just pop in and out. It gives a sort of a futuristic feel, a bit of a computerized feel, yeah? But I think the lyrics might be about a riposte, pushing back about this idea that people from Britain can't funk. Because we hear about Motown, we hear about Philly, we hear about Memphis, but we don't hear about Dilly. And Dilly's over in England. And so what I've come up with, and I could be wrong, please put it down in the comments if I'm wrong, I'm getting a sense that maybe it's Piccadilly funk. Piccadilly being a borough, a part of London. It's where a lot of plays are on, a lot of entertainment is. But anyway, let me know. Piccadilly, so it's the Piccadilly time. Anyway, it's a funkin' good time to finish this album. So what do I think about this album overall? Well, maybe the second side's not quite as experimental as the first, but still it's a funkin' good time. But the first side is really awesome. And I don't mind a slight inconsistency because this album fits so well on my turntable. I think I bought it about 3 days ago and I played it about 5 times. And so what I'm recommending to myself is to get some more pleasure out of this album, put it on again. And a reminder to you that if music of any size, shape, sound, or Cicero Park gives you pleasure, then who am I to argue with your opinion? If you'd like to watch some more of these videos, please help me out. They're over there. And until next time, I hope you're doing really well, staying cool. Bye now.